So we finally know how many people will get that $2,000 stimulus check, and the numbers are kind of shocking. There's also talk about ending income tax somehow, and on top of it all, these new Trump-Epstein emails have raised some very scary questions. You can see we have a lot to cover, so let's just jump right into it. And we'll start with a massive update on the $2,000 dividends, stimulus checks, and this one is coming straight from the guy whose words actually matter.
Well, there are a lot of options here. The president's talking about a $2,000 rebate, and that would be for families making less than, say, $100,000.
Have you decided on that yet?
We haven't. We haven't. It's in discussion.
Scott Bessent is now saying there will be checks, not refunds. And that is a major shift from what he said before.
It could. The $2,000 dividend could come in lots of forms, in lots of ways, George. It could be just the tax decreases that we are seeing on the president's agenda. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. So, those are substantial deductions that, are being financed in the tax bill.
Now, something else became very clear in this interview. Not every family member is going to get a check. Let me explain. If you send $2,000 to every adult making under $100,000 a year, you're looking at roughly $300 billion. And they've repeatedly said this money will come straight from tariffs.
We're going to issue a dividend to our middle income people and lower income people of about $2,000. And we're going to use the remaining tariffs to lower our debt. We're going to be lowering our debt, which is a national security thing.
But here's the math. The federal government has only taken in about $117 billion from the new tariffs and about $197 billion total as of September. Yes, those numbers have likely grown since then, but they're nowhere near enough to cover every adult. And I know the president keeps saying tariffs have brought in trillions.
Frankly, because of tariffs, we're taking in trillions of dollars. And countries that have ripped us off for years, and everyone knows this, countries that have ripped us off for years, like nobody's ever been ripped off before, they're now having to pay up. They're paying a lot of money to America, and we're reducing taxes with that money. The numbers were reported so incorrectly. The real numbers are trillions of dollars have been taken in or gotten in terms of investment from the tariffs. And so if that were ever reversed, it would be a disaster. Frankly, it would be a national security problem for our country.
However, most of that is private investment from corporations building factories and offices. That money cannot be used to fund stimulus checks, which is exactly why I believe the income threshold is going even lower. Don't forget, Bessent wasn't talking about individuals making $100,000. He was talking about families making $100,000.
The president's talking about a $2,000 rebate, and that would be for families making less than, say, $100,000.
So if that's the case, the number of people eligible drops significantly, and suddenly the entire program becomes much more financially realistic. Now, some people say they should use tariff revenue to get rid of federal income taxes instead because the president has floated that idea before.
America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen very quickly. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Do you know, the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right?
But the numbers simply don't support this. Individual income taxes brought in about $2.4 trillion in 2024. As you just saw, the tariff revenue isn't even a tenth of that. And if you think they're just going to lower their own tax revenue, you're out of your mind. If we pay less in taxes, how will they fund programs like this?
And then the other thing you're going to see in the middle of the year are these Trump accounts. Every child born retroactively to January 1, but for the next 3 years, is going to get a $1,000 account that's going to be invested in the U.S. stock market. So that's another $1,000 for working families.
Look, I ran the numbers. Based on what we saw in 2024, we're looking at around 14.4 million babies being born over these 4 years. And that means the federal government will be sending about $14.4 billion into these so-called investment accounts. And can you guess who's going to benefit the most from this? Scott Bessent's friends on Wall Street. So clearly, as of right now, checks, not tax cuts, look far more plausible. And that's likely why more and more officials are starting to talk about it openly.
With the record revenue that's coming in through tariffs, as we lower corporate taxes, as we lower business taxation, as we lower personal income taxation, we're able to now get more and more revenue through foreign imports to power the Treasury and to be able to give rebates to the American people. It's all part of the America First economic plan.
Should U.S. citizens expect a $2,000 proposal? Is the White House committed to making that happen?
The White House is committed to making that happen, yes. And we are currently exploring all legal options to get that done. I don't have a timeline for you or any further details, but I can confirm for you that the president made it clear he wants to make it happen. And so his team of economic advisors are looking into it. And when we have an update, we'll provide one.
Now, we just saw Caroline Leavitt talking about the dividend, but she actually spent most of the press conference addressing the Epstein situation.
I have your statement about the new Epstein emails that have been released by House Democrats. Separate from why you believe the emails were made public, can you address their substance? Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her.
Go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with.
This administration has done more with respect to transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever.
If you are wondering why she is suddenly under fire, it's because thousands of newly released Epstein-related documents just came out, and some of the emails circulating online don't paint a good picture of the president.
New emails have just been published by the Epstein estate, and you're not going to believe this. An email between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell states, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. A victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc." Maxwell then replied, "I have been thinking about that." It appears that Epstein is telling Maxwell that Donald Trump knew what was going on, yet he wasn't questioned about it by authorities. Release the Epstein files now.
Now, of course, figures like Chris Cuomo are already stepping in to say that these emails do not directly incriminate the president.
The new Epstein emails aren't really new. We knew they were coming out. Of course, President Trump knew Jeffrey Epstein and spent a lot of time with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? Of course he was around when there were women around, and maybe they were young women. No one's questioning that. And if Trump says that's not true, he's lying. But the question is, did Trump know that Epstein was messing with underage girls and that there was victimization? The second question is, was he part of that? Now, You're part of it if you know about it and don't say anything. And that's that email where Maxwell says, or Epstein says, or someone says, Trump told them to stop. Stop what? Then you have what this is really about, which is this just came out because the shutdown's winding down and we need a new point of outrage.
Epstein is gone, but Ghislaine is still here. And clearly the emails do not line up with her claim that the president was never at Epstein's place. So you can see why some people are saying that she might be using Epstein's plan to save herself. Then there is the talk about her getting special treatment in prison. That's another red flag.
They say she's having a luxurious experience behind bars, being waited on hand and foot by staff, customized meals personally delivered to her cell, after hours time in the exercise area, and a service puppy to play with.
And now she's trying to get her sentence reduced. That is happening right as the president is making comments about cases like hers.
Its term today, Mr. President.
Say it.
The Supreme Court is back and said that they rejected today an appeal by Ghislaine Maxwell to overturn her conviction. That means her only chance of getting out of prison is a pardon from you. Is that something you're...
Who are we talking about?
Ghislaine Maxwell.
You know, I haven't heard the name in so long. I can say this, that I'd have to take a look at it. I would have to take a look. Did they reject that?
She wanted to appeal her conviction.
And what happened?
They said that they were not going to hear her appeal.
I see. Well, I'll take a look at it. I will speak to the DOJ. I wouldn't consider it or not consider it. I don't know anything about it. So, but I will speak to the DOJ.
Why would she be a candidate for clemency, sir?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to speak to the DOJ. I'll look at it. I have a lot of people have asked me for pardons.
So all in all, this is bad, and I can see why they've been asking Republicans not to sign Thomas Massey's petition.
Caroline, why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns? That's a defining factor of transparency.